Hello, my name is Daniel Yuck. Thank you for joining today. I appreciate you, your time, and your support. In today's video, I want to dive into a step-by-step follow-along of a simplistic design. This is going to be a nautical star. I will go ahead and leave this design for you down below so you can download, follow along with me on your end. I want to start by listing off the gear that I'm going to be using, and then from there we can go ahead and switch on over to a different angle and begin the actual tattooing process. For the gear that I'm going to be using, I will be leaving my Amazon affiliate links and other affiliate links for you in the description below so you can check out the gear that I'm going to be featuring in this video in case you want to match it up as close as you'd like on your end. I'm going to be using this OG Produce tattoo machine. I don't know the name off the top, but again, I'm going to be leaving my links down below. I will do a full in-depth review of this machine on my YouTube channel for those who are interested. For this design right here, I feel like there's a few ways that we can go about this in terms of needles. When it comes to needles, I'm going to use a 5-round liner, a Big Wasp 005 round liner for these inside lines. And then I feel for these outer areas, I can get away with, like for example, a 007 round shader or even a standard 11 round liner. This is going to be 110% subjective, but I'm pretty much going to be using those. So it's either going to be the 7-round shader or 11-round liner for the outline, and then a 5-round liner for the inner areas. If you want to fluctuate in line weight, please feel free to do so. I encourage you to use what you feel comfortable using. I'm also going to be using dynamic black tattooing ink for this demonstration along with simple petroleum jelly, and I'm just going to be using some Scotch shop wipes to clean up my fake skin. This is also going to be done on real skin, fake skin as well. So first and foremost, I want to begin with the area that's closest to me. Much like on every single tattoo and follow along that I do, I like to begin with the area that's close to me, whether it's kind of on the side if I'm angled this way or this way. Always the area that's close to me. So for this demonstration, I'm going to start with this area and then work my way around the tattoos. I'm also going to be starting with the heavier line weight and then work my way to the smaller ones from there. So I'm going to I decided to go with the rattlesnake round shader for this design right here. I'm going to be running at around 7 volts to line the outside of this design here. And then from there, I'm going to go ahead and get some ink. I don't want to get too much and not too little. I want to make sure that I can make it from point A to B. The first thing that I like to personally do is identify where I'm going to be going first, so I kind of have a game plan. So you can kind of see that I'm planning out this tattoo and figuring out and mapping out steps that make the most sense to me. I want to have a clean and practical approach. So I'm going to go ahead and apply a little bit of ointment in the areas that I'm going to be tattooing. Not too much, not too little. You want to get in the habit of knowing how much to apply, so each and every time we create a line, we're doing this routine. I'm going to identify my point A, which is going to be right here, and then I'm going to make my way to point B. If you notice that I'm not going over the design or anything like that, which is why I'm choosing to start in this area right here. So I'm going to get comfortable, identify my point A and B, and then from there I'm going to go ahead and just kind of gradually make my way that way as cleanly as I can. The idea is not to go for perfection. When we go for perfection, we kind of start setting up maybe unrealistic expectations of what's practical for a current moment in time, or just unrealistic expectations in general, and therefore we can really get discouraged. So when we are practicing, the last thing that we want to do is aim for perfection. What we want to do is go for the best that we can do today, and then you're going to see it gradually each and every day as we do it and put in work, we're going to be improving. I'm going to make sure that I have adequate ink flow. I'm going to repeat that process with the line next to it right here. So identify my point A, then point B, and I'm not going for perfection. I'm just trying to focus more so on my technical application all the way through. And my artistic choices. I want to create a series of good steps when I tattoo, as well as a series of good choices. Okay, so very good. And again, if you're not happy with the results that you're currently getting or putting out, don't get discouraged. We have to kind of go through the motions. You're going to hear me say this a lot throughout these follow-alongs. There's no way around progression but through it. Another thing that I want to point out is you're going to notice that I'm not going to turn my fake skin to accommodate my needs. I'm going to move myself. I feel like if we focus on moving ourselves and finding different positions that we're comfortable with, we can be better equipped for human skin and the curvatures the body offers when it comes time. So therefore, leave your fake skin in the position that it started with originally and try to work around it. So I'm gonna proceed by identifying my point A and B. I wanna make sure that I have adequate ink flow. Once I've identified my point A, I'm going to slowly navigate to point B. I want to make sure that I give the needle enough time to do its thing before I move on to the next part. So that way I get the cleanest saturation that I can potentially, or possibly get, forgive me there. I'm going to go ahead and wipe away, and you can see that I'm getting nice results. I'm happy with those. I'm going back for more ink, make sure that I have adequate ink flow for the next line, which is going to be this one right here. So I'm going to repeat the process from A, and I'm going to make my way on over to B. So here we go. The fake skin is still in the same position as well. The skin got a little bouncy there, so I'm sure that my needle depth kind of fluctuated right here at the end, which is perfectly okay. I'm going to kind of leave it as is. I'm not going to do any patching or anything like that. I'm going to wipe away and see the results. I'm still getting clean results, so I'm happy with that. I think that was, I think the results came out good because my hand speed is a bit slower because I'm running at a bit of a lower voltage and this machine doesn't hit as hard. And then from here, I'm going to kind of continue this logic and thought process. So I have the bottom star done. From here, I'm going to go ahead and move over to the top. So I'm going to navigate over here to this side right here. And then from here, I'm going to identify point A and B. I'm going to start from this point. When I start from this point, I'm going to do a little gradual taper. So that way we don't have a little ball at the end of that point there. And then I'm going to bring this line this way with another gradual taper. If your lines are coming out a bit crooked right here, don't worry. We can do this follow along as many times as we need. And I assure you by the 5th, 6th, 7th time you will see improvement. We just have to go through all of that work and progress and really do the footwork. Okay, so far so good here. I'm going to navigate on over to this area right here next to it. And then I'm going to adjust myself. I'm going to reposition. So that way I can bring the line this way because that's how I'm comfortable. Make sure that I identify point A and B. As you can see, here is the A. I'm going to make my way on over to B here, like so. I'm going to pat it down there, put a little bit of ointment to see where we are at. Okay, so far so great. I'm going back for a little bit more ink and then I'm going to continue this with these next 4 outer lines here. The same thing, I'm going to want to taper in as to not create a ball at the end of that point. Then I'm going to keep my hand speed aligned to my voltage. Then I'm going to bring it down this way as cleanly as I can with a mild taper out on the end as to not create any ball points at the end of any of these points. I want them clean and sharp. I'm going to go back for more ink here and then repeat that flow. So here is my point A, and then I'm going to make my way on over to point B with the taper in right here. And then we're going to do a mild taper at point B as well, just to avoid any sort of harsh starting and end points. And then from there, we're going to apply the last part of this star, and then we can move on over to the inner area. And then we just have to do that 2 more times. So I'm going to put a little bit more ointment, identify my point A and B, which is going to be right here. And then I'm going to bring it on over this way here. Fantastic. And then I'm going to do that 1 more time here. So I'm going to start from point A and then make my way on over to point B here with a mild taper out on the end. If you've made any wobbles or mistakes, just simply we'll keep it going and then you're going to gradually improve those over time. I assure you, we just have to remain calm, cool, and collected so that way we can keep doing the work. So that right there is the main outline that's done with the Rattlesnake 7 round shader. I'm gonna switch on over to the Big Wasp 5 round liner so that way we can get this inner area done right here. So I'm gonna be running a smaller needle configuration, which means I'm gonna wanna take my voltage down to around 5 volts, 6 volts. I feel that's gonna be a healthy voltage range for this small of a needle configuration. And then from here, I'm going to apply these lines. So again, we're using the Big Wasp 5 round liner. From here, I'm going to approach this with, I guess, a strategy here. I'm not going to kind of break these down into individual lines like so. I'm going to try to run them as clean as I can in one single pass. So allow me to show you. I'm going to identify my point A and B, make sure that I'm comfortable. So it's going to be from A right here down to B right here. So I'm going to make sure that I'm comfortable here, identify A, and then make my way on over to point B as cleanly as I can. If there's any wobbles or mistakes or needle depth fluctuations, I feel like it's perfectly okay. Keep it going. And we're going to gradually improve that over time. So you can see there was some fluctuations there from the original stencil versus the line that I inputted, but it's not too bad. It's still reading nice and clean here. From here, I'm going to kind of repeat that again. So I'm going to identify my point A and B. So here is A. And then we're going to navigate on over to point B. It's also very important to note that the smaller needle size that we go, the more our mistakes are going to show. So you can see there was another minor fluctuation right here. From right here, I had a fluctuation right there. Not too bad. So you kind of see how I'm handling these mistakes as they come up. And I feel like this is how we should handle them with each and every tattoo that we do apply. And then from here, identify A and B. It's going to be the same thing throughout the entire lines here. So here is A. And then point B. Perfection, not by any means perfect, however, we're getting a nice clean read. We're going to do that 2 more times. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and again identify my point A, which is going to be right here. And then I'm going to navigate on over to point B as cleanly as I can. Like so. And one more time. And you're going to notice throughout this entire follow along, not once have I turned my fake skin over to help benefit my flow. I'm kind of moving myself, which is more practical to a tattoo session. So one last line right here, and this one's a little bit awkward for me because of my table position, so I'm going to try my best here. There we go. So from here, what I'm going to go ahead and do is clean up any excess ink that may be remaining, and then we're going to take a look at where we are at. So we have the outline done, and this design is a basic design, but it is more, it's not as easy as it may seem. If you notice that we have very little room for error, which means if we are wobbling or any of that inconsistent needle depth, by now we're definitely going to see that. And again, please remain calm, cool, and collected. Come back in about 2 days, a day or so, and then try it again, and you are going to see gradual improvement. We just have to really do it time and time again and do that footwork. Now, in terms of completing this design, I'm going to color or pack in the specific side of each of this star here. So I'm going to go for the right side of each star. So if it's faced this way, I'm going to do the right facing this way, the right facing this way, the right. You get the idea. If you want to be rebellious, you can go for the left before me. I'm going to do the right of each one. And if that doesn't make sense, allow me to explain here. I'm going to kind of just mark them here and show you. I believe this is going to be a WJX mag here that I'm using, a 9 mag. And here is the side I'm going to pack in. This is the side that I'm going to pack in. I'm going to pack in right here, and then right here. So in case you were wondering or need to know where I'm going to be packing, it's going to be those 5 areas right there. So it's important to kind of mark them or make a good mental note that you're going to reference, so that way we don't do the wrong side. I have seen instances where artists do pack in the wrong side and then they have 2 black areas that shouldn't be there. So you get the idea. It could end up pretty bad if we aren't mindful in planning it out. So from here, I'm still running around the same voltage that I was with the 5 round liner. If I need to pick it up here, I will go ahead and do so. Allow me to kind of pack and fill this out for a moment. And all I'm going to do to pack in here is start from one area, and I'm going to move in small circular motions as you see me doing here. So that way I can get full saturation and optimal consistency. If you need to go back over some areas, I encourage you to do so. And then you're going to notice when I go back over here, I'm not going to start right here. I'm going to start a little bit on the area that I've already packed in, and then I'm going to continue packing it in, so that way I get a clean read all the way across, and I could avoid as much inconsistency as I possibly can here. I'm using the very tips of the needle. I'm letting the technique here really do the work for me. I'm not applying much pressure at all. Let's go ahead and see where we are at with this one here. So far so clean, and I'm going to kind of repeat this a little bit more here. You always want to make sure that you have adequate ink flow, so that way we aren't dry packing any areas, meaning like we're not inputting ink when we're packing there. And then from here, I'm just going to kind of fill in this last little area right here. If you feel like you need to kind of crosshatch to finalize things, I encourage you to do what you feel is comfortable, so that we can really develop your workflow and how you want to approach things. Allow me to wipe away to see where we are at. And one thing that I'm mindful of is I'm always mindful of the starting and end points. We don't want to be able to tell that we had a line here. That's the point. You want to saturate cleanly enough so that way it looks like one clean cohesive read, and there's no fluctuation from the line work that we did to the packing that we are doing. I feel like that's very, very important. If we're seeing that on fake skin, chances of us seeing that on human skin are great, and we really don't want that. So if you see that, kind of go back over it so you can kind of blend everything and lose the lines there. So that's perfect, and we're going to repeat that 4 more times here. I'm going to adjust this way here. And the technique is going to stay the same throughout. So what I did right here was I kind of just lined up this area because these lines are a bit thinner. So instead of having to worry about passing over this thin line, I'm going to create this line and make it a little bit thicker and bring it this way. Like so, and you can see that the line's thickening up there, and I'm bringing it this way here. I feel like that would be a better approach for me. There we go. So from here, all I have to do now is start from one point and then make my way on over to the other. So from here, this way, and you get the idea. the same thing from point A to B. And I feel like establishing those boundaries really do help to make it a more easier workflow here. Okay, so from here I'm going to go ahead and put some ointment, wipe away, and see where we are at. If there's any touch-ups that we need to do or any patchiness, then we go ahead and touch that up right now before we move on. And then we're going to repeat that 3 more times here. So you can see that we've done lining with multiple line weights, 2 different line weights, and we're doing a bit of packing. So it is a bit of a basic application. However, this is a sort of design where if we make like small mistakes and wobbles, then we're gonna see them, which is a bit difficult. It could be discouraging if we're seeing them, but again, we have to go through the motions and really learn. I feel like we should embrace the mistakes and be happy that we're making them so that we were able to see with a bird's eye view what we should be doing next. I want to make sure that I have adequate ink flow, so I'm going to go back for some more here before I continue on up here. There we go. And then if there's any sort of like patchiness or blotchiness, go back over it. I'm going to do a little bit of cross hatching this way to smooth things out here. I'm going to get some ointment, wipe away. I don't want to wipe too hard because I don't want to tear the fake skin or beat that up too much. And then I'm going to repeat that 2 more times. So far so good. And these little marks right here are really helping me remember which side I need to be packing, so that way I don't really have to worry too much about that. It's a bit effortless now. I think the hardest part is not going over this thinnest line from here on out. And then from here I'm going to So from A, and I'm going to make my way on over to B there, using small circular motions as you see me doing here. Want to make sure that you have adequate ink flow so that way every deposit is depositing ink. And now we're reaching an endpoint with this area right here. You always want to make sure that you wipe away so you can see what you are working with in real time. If there's any patchiness, go over that. Don't be afraid to hit a spot a few times if need be. If your technique is correct, and which it will get over time, you will be able to go over a spot a couple to a few times, maybe even more as we get better. So from here, we're going to do this one last time. I'm going to go back for a bit more ink here. And then we're going to repeat that with this area right here. So you can see I'm establishing the boundaries here so that way I don't go past this area and then kind of ruin the integrity here. I'm just using small circular motions until I get to A right there, and then I'm going to keep working this way right here. So I kind of line the mag up with the edge of the line, and then I create small circular motions to beef up this line right here like so, as you see. And then I'm going to repeat that one more time with this area right here. Like so. And then I'm going to go from A and B. So right here, A to B. A to B. A to B. A to B. And then we're going to go ahead and do that a little bit more right here. There we go. And then from here, I'm going to go ahead and wipe away. And if there's any patchiness again, or anything that we need to go over, we're going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and get this fake skin cleaned up so we can take a look at it from the top view. Here we are at a top view, and these are the final results that I got right here. All in all, I'm happy with the way that this star reads right here. Some things to pay attention to when applying this design right here is not only the outline, but those intersecting lines. Another thing that you want to pay attention to after you've done the intersecting lines is this integrity right here. So you're going to see how in the middle right here, it looks like a sort of like a star, like a Chinese throwing star, so to speak, as you can see, and they all look clean and sharp and neighboring one another well. They do complement one another, the black spots that we just packed in. You want to try to make those and focus on keeping those as consistent as you can, so that way when we're done, the design has a clean, consistent, cohesive read. With this sort of design, it really is simplistic, but we just have to take our time. There is a lot of areas that we can go ahead and make mistakes. So if we did make mistakes along the way, please, I encourage you just to remain calm, cool, and collected. If you're not feeling it today, give it a break for today. Come back maybe tomorrow or the day after. Try this design again and then repeat that around 3 to 5 times. And I will assure you, if you kind of do it in a row, you are going to see gradual improvements. Just do your best to put your best foot front each and every time you practice. Before we conclude this video, if you have any questions at all, I encourage you to either drop a comment down below or go ahead and direct message me using the Patreon direct messaging system, and I will do my best to assist you in the best possible direction. I appreciate your time and I thank you for following along. You have a great day.